Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. It means the world to me. Thank you very, very, very much. And today we welcome along one of the most talented actresses around at the moment, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome the fantastic Antonia Desplat. Did I say your name correctly there?
You did. Congratulations.
Yeah.
One in a million.
Yeah, it's a common theme on this podcast. I always mispronounce people's names, so I have to double check. But
Well, you did mine very, very well.
Oh, merci beaucoup. So, if anyone who's actually unaware of the fact, she's actually the daughter of the fantastic Alexander Desplat, the composer, who's done all kinds of things. And yeah, he's just a master at what he does. So, Alexander, if you're watching, just bravo. Absolutely amazing. So, let's take a moment to introduce Antonia and her works. So, for TV, she has appeared in Letter for the King for Netflix, Victoria Series 2, The Durrells, The Bear and Shantaram, hopefully I've said that right, for Apple TV, Made in France for France TV, for theatre, Macbeth, Red Ends, The Cherry Orchard, Midsummer Night's Dream, Caucasian Chalk Circle, for cinema, Conte Anglais, Operation Finale, The French Dispatch, and Modi, directed by the fantastic Johnny Depp, three Days on the Wings of Madness. And also to her name, she is the winner of the Best Actress at the 2019 London Independent Film Awards, as well as Best Short Film for Held for a Moment, which also won at the Underwire Film Festival, London Independent Film Festival, and DumboFilm Festival, amongst many, many others. I could go on, but that would delay the wonderful moment when I say, Antonia, welcome.
Thank you.
How are
Thank
you?
you for having me. I'm really well. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. So
That's
we
okay.
start.
Thank you.
So we start at the beginning. We'll get on to talk about your film Modi, which I've been lucky enough to see, and I'll get this in now. It's an absolutely wonderful piece of work, and your performance is absolutely fantastic. So congratulations on that. But before we start, so for yourself, Antonia, where did it all come from? The love of acting, being in this business, where did it come from?
I think just being in a creative world from a really early age and
Mm,
being introduced to music, classical music, classical training in every shape and form, whether it was theatre, singing, music theory, and playing instruments. And I think I just really enjoyed performing and telling stories. And slowly, my parents realized I really needed to perform all the time. So they put me in an agency. And then I got my first job, my first audition that I did was to play a really spoiled little angry girl who just says no at everything. And I wanted to be a ballerina at that point. And I was like, no, I don't want to go to this audition. I don't want to do this. And I'm not interested in this. And I don't want to learn my lines. And I got the job because that was exactly the character. And then the second I got on set, I just really fell in love with it. And I was 9. And then I sort of did a couple more TV shows in France. And that's sort of where it started. I literally fell in love the second I started doing it. So, and then I trained. Just everything from that moment was very directional. And I knew exactly that I wanted to be an actress. So.
Fantastic. What was the journey like across your training?
So I begged my parents to let me go when I was 15, so I could go to England, learn English, because my English was not good enough to be trained in English. So I finished high school here in boarding school, and then I went on to do drama center and East 15.
Hmm.
And so I trained for 4 years, and then I never came home. I stayed in England and tried to pierce in the British market and the British stage and try to get rid of my accent as much as possible. In the aim of one day being able to play a British woman, which finally happened, which is great 15 years later.
Yes.
Um, so it's nice.
Ale. But yeah, I suppose I like asking questions about training and stuff. So, what would you say was the biggest difference between Antonia on day one of training and Antonia on the last day of training, like on graduation day?
I think being fearless and just actually not being afraid of, like basically it takes off all your inhibitions.
Mm.
You're ready to jump into anything full-heartedly and shamelessly, and you're there to have fun, to play, to fail, to trial things. And I feel that I found that freedom again working with Johnny because he also created a very free space on
Mm.
set and a sort of very safe space where we could fail and trial things. And that was the beauty of drama school for me, was being able to develop projects as well together with my colleagues, and that means that when you come out of drama school, you're able to also create your own work. And I love producing, and I think that really drama school really shaped the way I work and the way I approach my roles and the way and the job in general.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing you've mentioned there, was creative freedom, which I know your co-star Ricardo actually says in other interviews. He's also been on other platforms talking about. I'm going to mispronounce this really, really bad. Is it Modigliani? Hopefully, I've said that correctly.
Yeah, you did.
Modigliani, cool. And he talks about how Johnny created a really free and creatively, almost like fun set for you guys. So you had the chance to play around with the script, rewrite stuff, and actually just try different things. I mean, that must have been a huge bonus while you were filming, just to have that amount of freedom.
It's incredible, and also I call this experience an artistic blast because to be able to adapt the scenes to fit the way we believe the characters would speak after doing our research and after trying to understand who these people are, and just so we could find a free flow in the scenes. And I think, to have Johnny Depp as an orchestra conductor and us sort of doing our little part, it felt surreal because first, it's incredibly rare. You don't have time in post production to do that. Particularly in TV, for example, in TV, you just have to go setups after setups. You don't have time. You start a day knowing exactly how the day is going to pan out and exactly the right setups. And whereas with Johnny, it was like, forget about the camera, forget about trying to make our life easier so that we can get the shots that we need. Like if you've turned around and we miss half of the scene, I'll add another setup and I'll pick it up just so I have that. But like, I don't want you to feel constrained in any way with the camera and with the time. And so to have that is incredible. There was days where we only had one scene a day, so we could play as much as but the scenes are very big. If you remember, all the scenes are quite lengthy scenes. But still, it's sometimes it would finish 4 hours in advance. Sometimes it'd finish on time. But it's just like there was an incredible amount of freedom and time to do each scene, and just to play around, which was a luxury.
Yeah, I think you gave an interview, I think, to, I can't remember the article. Sorry, just bear with me 1 second, because there's something in this. I've got to get these guys in just to sort of quote. Is it Capital Gains who you spoke to, I think, very recently? You talked about how there was a scene, and this is not a spoiler, by the way, so obviously we won't touch on too much of that, but there's a scene where you and Ricardo, who's playing Modigliani, in a graveyard. And
just call him Modi.
Just call him Modi. Yes, that makes it better. Where you're in a graveyard, and I think the two of you try to go, like, sort of hug each other, and one of you falls over, and one of you falls over, and you're going, this wasn't planned, what the hell? And then Johnny runs over and goes, don't worry, this is magic. This is movie magic. I mean, that's a really good thing, and also it's funny, one thing I've learned is that sometimes when things go wrong in front of camera, you go, oh God, shit, should we start again? And then they're going, no, that was brilliant. Keep going. Yeah. But what was that experience like? From like a moment of madness comes, Johnny goes, magic.
Well, and he said that from the get-go. He said to us, if anything goes wrong in the scene, go with it, because that's where movie magic happens, because that's a moment of truth. That's a moment where we as humans just react completely unpredictably, and so there's only truth that can come out of it. So I think for him to be able to capture some authenticity moments was exactly what he was after. And in this scene, they're supposed to be incredibly drunk, off their face on mushrooms and hash and all sorts of possible substances.
Yeah.
And I tripped, like I was twirling and I tripped, like we were in a graveyard. There was the floor was uneven and there was holes all over it, and I tripped and I fell on a tombstone. And you can't hear it in the script, but I even went like, oh, sorry, to like the dead. Sorry, no disrespect to the dead, but like, and it just, we went with it, and it fits the scene perfectly, because never were we supposed to end on the floor in that scene. We was always supposed to be stood up in the scene. And then Ricardo couldn't pick me up. It was just like, and in my head, I'm going, I mean, this is a shit show. It's never gonna get kept. And they just kept rolling, and we were like, let's just, I mean, at this point, I think you don't even think about it. You just go with it. And that's why then I was like, okay, then I'll just carry on. And that's when I was like, always be drunk. But I was already supposed to be at the statue at that point, putting, I have a scarf and I put the scarf around the statue. That line was supposed to be, the way we had rehearsed it was that it was on the statue. And
All
so I
right.
sort of used that line to sort of get back up and try to go back into the blocking that we had done. But it's amazing, and it's so freeing and fun to be able to do mistakes like that then turn into a really special moment.
Yeah, and it's like it's like you actually, when people say, "Oh, you don't go to work, you go to play," and it's like playing is
Yeah.
a huge part of it, you know, because I feel like if it gets too structured, then it's not fun. It's like we've got to do this, we've got to do this, we've got to do this. Whereas, yeah,
Well, it has to be structured in a way, which is why I do a lot of prep beforehand,
oh
because,
yeah,
you
of
know, I'm
course,
playing a British woman. I'm playing someone real. So I want to, so there's a lot of prep for me in advance so that the accuracy of the character and the actual base of the work is there to then be able to be free and let go. And I think, you know, being an act the core of being an actor is to keep the childlike element of yourself and being able to always be playful, always be ready to there's a rule that says never say no to what someone offers you in a scene, because you should always go with it and always be open to whatever the other person gives you. And I think if you're in a controlled mindset, or if you're scared, or you're not open and free, then you block wherever that scene is supposed to be going, and you're not listening and responding. You're not present.
yeah,
You're just
exactly.
trying to, yeah, and it become contrived. And this was very free and fun.
Yeah, yeah. So it's present, just being present, I think, in any kind of filming work is brilliant because you got everything around you, the rushes, the sound guy going, right, we got this, the camera guy got that. So just being present, I think, is just it's essential, really. So let's talk about your character, which you play in this, which of course is Beatrice Hastings, who is the wife of Modi, and you know,
Not
like
the wife,
not the wife,
girlfriend.
girlfriend. I do beg your pardon.
Lover, lover,
The
not even a
lover.
girlfriend. There's no label at that time.
There's
Let's go
no
back in time where freedom was everything.
Okay, freedom. Let's go, man. Let's go. So, yeah, the lover of Modi. I'll correct myself there. So, I suppose my first question really is because she is a real person, she existed, and you know, well, what was the challenge of actually? Because obviously we're all our own unique person, even though we can try to be as close to that person as we can, but ultimately we are. You know, it's we can try and get as close as we can. Obviously, then some people can we're never truly them in a way, but we do the best we can to get close as possibly can. So, in your case, what was it like approaching a real person?
I mean, it's always actually quite wonderful to play someone real,
Mm,
because you get given a base that's tangible, and then you sort of add your own speciality to the character, and obviously some of my sort of mimics in a way. But there was it's a privilege to be able to have so much details of someone's life to be able to sort of guide you towards where the character is supposed to land a little bit. And I found this amazing book that was a sort of collection of her writings, of her diaries, of
mm,
sort of mentions that other people from the literary world sort of wrote about her and Modi. Some people describe, you know, fights that they witnessed of the couple, where he threw her out of a window and she was hanging down the balcony, and like all these kind of,
wow.
and all this gives such a wonderful insight into the life of that person. So I think, having read all these wonderful detailed passages of her life, I had a very clear understanding of her essence. And for me, the main thing was getting her essence right, and
Mm,
how free she was, and how impulsive, 360. For me, it's all about where does she sit in the body, how does she move, where. And I'm quite forward, and I'm quite direct forward, and she's 360. She's all over the place, and so it's trying to find the differences between me and her, how to merge certain things that could align for the two characters. But also she's British. So for me, that was the biggest challenge, getting the accent right. Because also it's back in the day. So there's no recordings of her voice. There's no um, videos of hers. But having details of her diary for me was gold, because, you know, she would say that she sits on the floor and smokes in public, and all things that women of that time wouldn't be really allowed to do, because you would be looked down quite drastically,
yeah,
looked down upon, something like that.
yeah,
And yeah, and then you get all these wonderful detail, like she tried to kill herself in the Hudson. She had a child that died, like all these things you don't know. And
oh,
she wrote a book about women that was called Women's Worst Enemy Women, denouncing how women are made to be breeders.
yeah,
And she says unpaid labor. to be a breeder. How shocking that is. And I'm just like, this is amazing because it's actually wonderful to play a real person because then everything that's not on the script, you sort of can add in but which I think the film does really well. Like if you know anything about Modigliani, it's not said, but if you know it as the spectator, you go, oh, I know why he did that. Oh, I know why he did that. I know why
Yeah.
he framed it like that. But I think, yeah, having that knowledge is makes it incredibly multidimensional.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm curious to know about I've asked this question I think previously, but say you because it's a real person, I was wondering if you had like I know throughout the film as well, there's like Modi has like some kind of hallucinations and you don't know whether he's in this world or the spiritual realm or this, that and the other, you're sort of jumping between things. So with that sort of word spiritual being said, imagine you while you're preparing, you were just hear me out on this one. You're visited by the spirit of Beatrice and she's there in front of you and you've got the chance to ask her one thing to help you with your process and helping you create her character for when you go on set next. What would that question be?
Jesus. Um, oh my God. Ah! Um,
Hmm.
how do you move?
How do you move?
Yeah.
I move slowly.
I don't. I don't think she does. No, actually, I don't. I don't know. I don't know. There's so many questions I would ask her.
Yeah.
Um, who do you go see when you leave Modi? She had other lovers all around Paris.
Oh, did she?
Um,
Okay.
yeah. Um, I'd ask her so many questions. That's a really difficult question.
Okay.
I'd want to know everything about her. What's in her bag?
Okay. So you got half an hour, then just go bang. It's just
Yeah,
the whole thing.
exactly.
Yeah, but she's a very kind of one thing that struck me, she's quite a revolutionary kind of figure. Like you just said there, like she was doing a lot of things that, of course, it takes place in 1916 Paris, where
Mm,
unfortunately at the time men were seen as superior, and
yeah,
and thankfully now times have changed, and there's a lot of things that kind of bind them together as a couple. They both love their art. Of course, she's a writer, and of course, he actually paints. But she's very revolutionary. She sort of looks at the status quo and flips it completely on its head. And she's a real kind of role model, I think, for women of like our time as well, to say, I am my own person and I can do whatever I want to do. And there must be quite an empowering role to play, given the context that she was basically doing this to the status quo. That must have been quite
yeah.
nice.
It's really nice and it's really freeing because I've also played quite a lot of very together characters and very controlled and very sort of
Mm,
so it is incredibly liberating to play someone who's so revolutionary but also incredibly inspiring because by doing research I learned so much about her and it's like she's a Simone de Beauvoir, she was a Virginia Woolf version,
hmm.
she's one of these women that should be recognized a lot more than she actually was. And she's a force of nature. And I think she struggled so much to exist in this world, patriarchal world,
Hmm.
that she ended up having 50 different aliases so that she would try and find a place somewhere or another. Like sometimes she wrote as a man because she was like, the only way this article may be read is if it's under a man's name. And sometimes she would have conversation between her, another name, a female name, and then a man's name. And just so she tried to find a space in society in any way she possibly could. But she's still not very recognized to this day. Like those books that I ordered, they're like unpublished version that I found in Africa. There's
Wow.
one copy. It took like months for me to get these bloody books to me, but they don't exist. And like I paid a fortune to get these books because they're not published anymore, and they've been published maybe once.
Yeah,
So it's actually quite sad, and I
yeah.
hope that people watch this film and go, "Who is this woman? I want to know more about her."
Yeah, I mean, like I say, you played her very kind of revolutionary and very inspiring in a way. And I think that one thing that bounds the two of them together, like I just said, like art binds them together. She writes and he actually paints. But one thing that really stuck out to me was the loyalty that she showed. She's incredibly loyal to Modi, and for reasons for things that happen later on in the film, which we can't really talk about. But she, in a nutshell, she stands by his side when he's going through any kind of mental struggles that he has. You know, the film's like a big commentary on people you should create art for yourself and not worry about external validation, etc. You know, and I think she has her own struggles with that as well, because as you just said, like, you know, he had to go to all the way to South Africa just to get a copy of the book, you know, and that's what kind of binds the two of them together, is that they both want some kind of validation. But the film and the message, I think particularly from her side, is to say you don't need it. You don't need that validation from other people. All you need to do is be proud of yourself. And, you know, as actors and creators, you know, that's easier said than done, you know, and I speak from personal experience myself, you know, but yeah, the loyalty that she shows in this, I think, I know you said that she's had various other lovers around the place, but the lovers, the loyalty that she showed in this is, I mean, it was really, really kind of, it was tough to watch, because she was there going, keep going. And he's going, but no one gives a shit. No one gives a shit. Yeah.
And it gets to a point where she can't do it anymore. And I think, you know, she has the mother instinct, even though she doesn't want to be a mom. I think when we care about someone and when we admire someone's work and we see them struggling and we see, like, we just want to hold them and tell them they're wonderful and try to, like, bring them. And, you know, she was incredibly fond of these statues that he did, because that was very ethnic to her, and it reminded her of where she grew up in South Africa, with all the sort of ethnical masks that she would have seen around that time. And she really had, like, she was really moved by his work. And, you know, it's never said and it's never spoken. And even Stephen Graham's character says, have you told Beatrice about your sickness? She doesn't need to be told. She knows. And I think, you know, all the hallucination and all that, this is linked to a particular type of meningitis tuberculosis that there was at that time. So it's not just because of the drugs and everything. So I think when she thinks he's having a seizure or whatever, that's because she knows she doesn't have to be told. She's smart enough to understand what's happening. So there's a very caring, loving approach to her relationship towards Modi. And she just wants to make sure that he's okay and that he doesn't give up. She thinks it's such a waste for him to give up.
Yeah, because that is just, I think you hear it all the time. It's a bit of a cliche, but unfortunately it's true. You know, just keep going, you know, don't give up and be proud of your art. So I'm curious, obviously you mentioned earlier about people wanting to come away from this, actually wanting to know more about her. And actually one question I had for today was, you know, what did she write about when you found her books and everything, her critiques and stuff? What did she like to write about?
So at first she was writing for a British newspaper in London, and then she was sort of called the New Age. And then she was sent to Paris to write about artists. So she was supposed to sort of be a reporter for the artist scene in Paris and write about Picasso and Modigliani, all these people.
Yeah.
And then as the war went on, she started becoming a bit of a war correspondent and was sort of like writing a bit the daily diaries of people in Paris during the war. And then on the side, she was writing a lot of poems and a lot of not a lot, but a couple of books about women and the sort of place that women had in society.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, and you mentioned the book earlier. Like, what was it called again?
Women's Worst Enemy. Women.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever get a chance to read it? Did you read it much? I mean, what's her angle on that? What's she talking about?
That women just get in each other's way. That we're just, by following society's etiquette and by letting ourselves be put in a box, and just where we're not allowed to exist as professionals, as thinkers, as intellectuals, and as, she just denounces everything that society makes women be in a really negative way. And just, for me, and also a lot about children and being breeders, because her mom had between 15 to 20 kids. A lot of them died. And she was so astonished about the fact that women were made to just keep breeding and just doing all this labor for free. And I read this line and I was just like, what the fuck? This is insane. This is like early 1900. Yeah. And this woman is, she's She's pretty incredible. I think she tried so many different medium to try and find a way to be recognized in some shape or another. But she was very good at every single one of these these shapes of writing that she did. She was a very good poet
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I mean, just that title, and I remember reading that, thinking, "The worst enemy to women is women." I just remember thinking, right, just like what you said there. This was published in early 1900s,
Yeah.
and I think, and women unfortunately didn't get the vote. In the UK, Emmeline Pankhurst, I think, was 1914, 1915, and it was something like that. But it was just very, very
Hmm.
close around that time in that decade. So,
Absolutely.
so to hear that was like, so thinking, wow, I mean, it was almost like the start of something quite big. Obviously, I might sound a bit broad there, but there's a beginning, there's an early
Yeah, there's a shift.
documentation, yeah, of that sort of thing. And I think she's like a really good image of how, the position was changing at the time,
Mm.
and we thank her for it, and many, many others who joined that movement as well. But I suppose really in sort of, I just got a few more questions left for you, and then I suppose really like how you found the character and everything, and everything you've talked about today. But who do you think she is? Like overall, who is she to you?
I think she's a lost soul, truly. I think she was so tortured and pained by this fight that she had with who she wanted to be and the fact that she couldn't be that person because of society's expectation. She killed herself. Yeah, she died because she
Oh,
gassed herself in her kitchen,
oh,
and she went in and out of hospitals. When she left Paris, she went in and out of hospital in England, mental institutes. Um, I think ultimately all this sort of drove her to insanity because the desperation of not getting what she wants from all her work and all her passion. She's just a passionate, tortured, sad soul, which I think in the film is just before she gets to that point.
mm,
Um, but for me, she's a revolutionary um, character and a massive feminist
mm,
um, and just a force of nature that ultimately gets broken down by society.
yeah. I suppose like another sort of process question really is, what do you think she's given you, and what has she taken away?
She's given me fire.
Fire.
Yeah, for sure. I became quite, um, yeah, playing her got me fired up. And I think it reminds me to just be a bit looser. I tend to be very good and very sort of structured and controlled. And I think it's a nice reminder to just be a bit looser and let life, because I think that's what was beautiful about that time in Paris. And I think that's why she found herself very happy there, even though she was broke and had so many negative things. But there was a freedom and there was a looseness in Paris in that time. And I
Mm,
think that's what the film really captures. It's like, it's not a biopic. And that's what people need to really get in their head.
yeah.
Ow, get in their head when I'm just like, get this in your head. It is not a biopic. You're not supposed to come out of this film going like, oh my God, I've learned so much about Modigliani and art. You're supposed to get an understanding of what it was to be an artist in that time, the vibe of 1916 Paris, the
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of never ending struggle and walking around for hours in Paris. Like these artists had nowhere to be. There was no schedule. There was no, um, and they would drink to sort of get lost from the horrible war that was happening around them, from the pain they were getting from being rejected, from the fact that they were so poor.
Yeah.
It was like this um, never-ending days that just Groundhog Day almost every day. And I think it's just this film is just a little peek of what it could feel like, of what it could look like to live in that time.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, following Modigliani and understanding an artist that was very sick and very tortured and very pained. But it's also about a group of humans and how these humans interact together, how they help each other, how friendship or love, frustration, like yeah, it's not a biopic. It's an essence of what the life in 1916 Paris was.
Yeah, and another thing is that it's a 72-hour window. So like you said,
Yeah, it's
it's
three
not
days.
3 days. It's not it's an anti-biopic
Yeah,
and I'm not sure what the right term is. It's not a
anti-biopic.
biopic, guys. It's not a biopic. So
It's
yeah.
not, because also, Beatrice Hastings was not the big part of Modigliani's love life. Like, the biggest woman in his life was
Mm,
Jeanne, who was ultimately his last wife. I mean, his wife, I think his only wife. There was Anna, another poet, a Russian poet first, and there was Beatrice, and then there was Jeanne. Like, that's nobody has mentioned Beatrice in the past sort of biopics of Modigliani. Like, this is just a peep in his life. It's not, yeah.
yeah. It's true. It's true. You know, it's a, and also I think the film's done an incredible job because I think one of Stephen Graham's character's line is that one day everyone will know the name
Modigliani.
Modigliani, and it's true. I had no idea who this guy was until very recently.
Really?
No,
Oh,
no
wow.
idea. So I think this film's going to do a lot to sort of get his art out and his story out and everything, and it's a fascinating story. Also, I think it opens up a good question about, I think, is like how art still persevered through a difficult time as well. Like Antonia kept writing and he kept painting, throughout this time. It showed how even though in a landscape of uncertainty and a lot of destruction and war, and I think there's a brilliant line that you have right at the beginning, so destruction is
Is
creation.
creation. How
Yeah.
can an artist be expected to create in that's not in the film anymore, but my line was, destruction is creation. How can an artist be expected to create in a world of so much destruction?
Mm.
But actually, most of the best work of any artist, whether they're poets, painters, was done through pain, either from heartbreaks, from depression, from sickness, from the people create art from pain a lot of the time. So I do believe that it makes sense that so many wonderful artists came out during that time in history, because the world that they were surrounded of was so heavy. So either it's an escape, either it's an inspiration. But I think each person has actually used the painful surrounding that was history at that time to sort of make art, and either as an escape was a way to express their pain.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, and absolutely right. And I feel it's a really good insight into how, despite everything that's happening outside external influences, that you follow your passion and you keep going with your art. And I think, like I said earlier, the big message of the film is just to keep going and don't worry about external validations and don't let this be affected in any way, or
Yeah.
not just your head, but your heart, your soul, your whole body, your whole being is in the
And
work.
don't sell yourself short for money. That, I think, is even more important. It's like
Oh,
this thing of, do not sell yourself for money.
yeah, and obviously we won't talk about it too much, but that scene particularly with Al Pacino, where they're
Yeah.
sort of going back and forth about it, and talking about,
That for me rounds the entire film, because
yeah,
there's few lines in that scenes that just rounds up the entire first part of the film, where it's like, actually, and it's beautiful. And the fact that then Johnny has, because this is all a bit unconscious in some ways, because that head, it was in the script, and like, they didn't know that Beatrice had written in her diary that she was obsessed with these little statues. And there's even in her diary where she says, "Oh, I would love to have one of these one day, but I'm sure the Italian charges a fortune for this, and he's notoriously stingy, so I'm sure he won't sell it for me for cheap." And the fact that throughout the whole thing, there's this head that then he refuses. I'm not going to go into that, actually,
yeah,
but that whatever happens in that scene happens. And then that he gives this head to B, saying, "It is you, B." And that then, after everything that happens after that, she brings it back to him to sort of be like, even if that's the thing I've always wanted, I'm going to give it back, because this is where it needs to be.
yeah,
Or it's like the last thing standing in a way. Like, that was unconscious, because they didn't know how much Beatrice cared about those statues. And when I was reading the script, I was like, "Do you guys know about this? Like, this is crazy." Because that head, they changed it throughout the script, throughout the shoot, quite a few times. There was different narrative with the heads and stuff. The narrative that stuck was incredible because unconsciously it just has. If you know the subtext,
Yeah.
then you go, "Oh my god, you're a genius."
Yeah, I'd say those sculptures were beautiful, by the way. Big shout out
They're gorgeous.
to the well, I don't know which department. What would it be? The props guy.
The art department, I mean, Dave Warren is a bloody genius, but that there was a particular artist that painted the Modiglianis and the sculptures. I don't know who that is, but it was a
Wow.
Hungarian artist that was pretty phenomenal.
Wow. Big shout out to the art department and whoever that artist was. It's really,
Yeah.
really beautiful. And I think again, just going back to your character, just before we finish, I mean, there's a brilliant I think there's like a nice grounding energy about her in a way that she keeps things real. She keeps things on the right track, even when everything else is probably falling to shit, whether Modi's mind is going insane or the world around her is destroying. There's a nice, I don't know if you've ever had this, I'll probably be talking out my ass right now, but there's a nice grounding energy to her. I mean, was that ever something that you found?
I did, and I actually particularly tried to be the grounding character of this film because the other three are such loose cannons.
Mm,
Beatrice is incredibly ambitious, and she's not as, yeah, of course she drinks and but I don't think she was as destroyed as the boys.
mm.
Not destroyed, but when
It's
you drink a lot.
like
Sorry.
broken as the boys, perhaps, or
No, as in, like when you drink and you sort of don't look after yourself at all.
okay, yeah,
She wasn't as crazy with the substances as the three boys were,
yeah.
even with alcohol. And I think she was incredibly ambitious, a lot more than the boys in the end, because she wanted money, she wanted to be successful. I think Modi is a lot less about that. Of course, he's affected by the rejection, but I mean, ultimately, that's what the fight at the end is about. And I think that's what keeps her grounded because she's so determined to make it. And she doesn't want to get distracted. Like even when she says, "What am I going to do? Write about the fishes?" People come to hear about the great artists of Paris, not about one man in the middle of nowhere. Like she is so ambitious. And I think that's where the grounding comes from because she's not the loose cannon like of course she joins in, but she dips in and out. She's not constantly stuck in this sort of tortured turmoil of destruction.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Antonia, I know we're pushed for time because I know you've got other interviews to get on to, but I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank
It's
you.
been an absolute pleasure to meet you, and I'd love to talk to you again at some point. I've just got two quick fire questions left for you today.
Go on.
The last two questions for every guest. First of all, what would you say was a bit of advice you wish you heard at the beginning of your career?
Uh, Work with what you have instead of work against what you have. I was always trying to not be the French and trying to be something that I'm not. Actually, the second I surrendered to being French and Italian and work with whatever was me
Hmm.
and be me, my authentic self, as much as possible on screen,
Yeah,
is when things started unlocking.
yeah,
And then
fantastic.
I played a British, which makes no sense on paper, but there you go. That I was authentically British apparently, so now it's great.
Yeah, yeah, it's flawless accent, by the way. You did a great job on
Thank
that.
you.
Very, very good. And
Thank you.
finally, today, what would you say has been an experience or experiences you've had in your career up to now that you'll never ever forget?
I mean, this one is definitely of that, but I think Shantaram, shooting in India, in the slums of India in Shantaram, in Bravi, next to the Mumbai airport, was mind blowing. I had such a beautiful experience doing Shantaram.
Yeah, God, I need to check that out. That sounds beautiful. Yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't read the book, you should read the book. It's a
yeah,
beautiful book.
yeah, that's on my to watch list now. Thank you for that. But God, Antonia, this has been absolutely amazing. I know we're out of time because I know you've got to shoot off to other interviews, but
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
thank you very much for your time today. And
Thanks, Oliver.
I'd love to have you back. I've got so many more things for you, but yeah, unfortunately, I have to draw it there. So if you just hang on, I'll finish the recording. We'll have a tiny debrief, then you can shoot off. So, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast. I'll be back. I'll be back very, very soon. And Antonia, merci beaucoup.
De rien. Merci à toi.